this afternoon.
Okay.
And my name is Marwan Khouri. I'm the moderator today, and allow me to start, please. Today we are, of course, as you know, we are facing hard times, and I would like to thank the Jordan Society of Travel Agents for initiating this meeting, which is important and which is much needed at this stage. So let me start by spelling for the time being where we are what we're facing now. First of all is resiliency, and the second one is uncertainty. I'm going, Your Excellency, and I'm going to say a few words, then introduce the topics we are going to discuss, and then introduce the panelists, if you allow me to do that. So,
yeah, of course.
The two words that I want to start with are resiliency and uncertainty. The tourism sector has proven to be resilient all throughout the times, and we here in Jordan have witnessed that over and over again. However, this time, resiliency needs a lot of efforts to be effected. One of them is the support for the private sector, and the second thing is much marketing and much promotion to stay in the market, anticipating this thing when it's over. The other thing is uncertainty. This coronavirus is posing a massive threat to the health and lives of citizens. The word uncertainty here. We don't know when this thing will be over. We don't know when they will find a vaccine. People are talking about other waves that might come. People are talking about the flu season in the autumn. So this kind of uncertainty is casting a gloom over the economy. And this is reflected in a dramatic declines in employment and GDP all over the world. The tourism sector, however, is the most affected. In my view, it is the most affected. As such, the short to medium term outlook for the tourism industry appears critical moment and demands an examination of possible and effective solutions. Accordingly, the panel today is going to discuss three important issues. First, the immediate measures that need to be taken to keep the sector alive and ready for new business once this is over. The second thing prolongs what actions are needed and whether, in this case, domestic tourism would be the one or one of them. And here I need, and I think everybody needs to stress the importance of private sector innovation. It's time for that. However, again, during this period, there is also a need to identify markets that can help accelerate recovery, addressing product diversification, and if necessary, refitting marketing strategies and marketing plans that are already in place. And the third issue that we are going to discuss is once this is over and movement resumes, there are going to be changes. Things are not going to be, the pre-corona is not going to be, the post-corona is not going to be like the pre-corona. There's going to be changes in traveling habits and changes in consumer behavior. So what will these be and what destinations need to do to accommodate the new changes? Another important issue that I have to mention here is what IATA was saying the other day, that the global aviation industry will be losing $252 billion in the year 2020. So after this introduction, let me introduce our panelists, and let me start by the Minister of Tourism of Cyprus, Your Excellency, Mr. Savas. Welcome, sir, and your input will be highly appreciated here in Jordan. And allow me to say something here. I need to tell you this thing. I have a house in Paphos. I've been going and coming there for the last 4 years. And me and my family really love that place. We live in Kato Paphos near the harbor. And while I was going and coming, I found there are a lot of similarities between our destination and your destination. And I can start by saying, for example, people in terms of characters, in terms how they behave with the foreigners, blah, 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 it's the same, more or less. The other things are the archaeological sites. You have a lot of them, we have a lot of them. And I live near the place where is the Katopaphos Archaeological Park, where there are the beautiful mosaics. And similar, we have here a city that is called the City of Mosaics that has the same, more or less, beautifully kept mosaics. And I'm sure once all the development is being done, this will greatly give a nice input to your product by saying ancient mosaics by the sea. That's beautiful, by the way. Just I wanted to say that. The other thing is, the third thing is your country and our country, how we successfully handled the coronavirus. I believe everybody in the outside world should know that. Trade and consumer should know how we did that thing and effectively controlling this disease. So that's it. And now I will introduce His Excellency Mr. Munir Nassar, Minister of Tourism and a leading travel agent and an expert in inbound tourism and also an expert in tourism development. We are glad you're with us, sir.
Thank you.
Thirdly, Mr. Adel Amin, who has spent his life in tourism, hotels, tour operators, he has been there all the time. And the last job he had was Deputy Managing Director of the Jordan Tourism Board. Hello, Adel. Nice to have you. And last but not least, Mr. Clive Bishop. Sir, I haven't been introduced to you personally, but I know about you. And you are the principal of Blue Skies Consultancy Group of the UK, and you are an international tourism consultant and an expert in development of tourism service providers. Welcome, and we're glad to have you with us, and your input will be much appreciated.
Thank you, sir.
So let us start with you. I start with Munir to talk about, Munir, your experience throughout these years will allow you to tell us two things. How can the tourism sector globally survive this situation? And secondly, and on a local level, are you happy with the government support we are getting here in Jordan? And if not, what should we do? Noticing that the revenues last year from tourism were $5.8 billion. Sir, the platform is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Marwan. And thank you, JSTA, for having me on board this panel. Marwan, if I had the answer to the first question, I wouldn't want to share with everybody. I would want to be a millionaire overnight. How can tourism survive? Let's agree. I think we all agree it will survive. And if we go back in history, and I'm an avid fan of history, and it teaches us a lot. If we go back 200 years, when Thomas Cook started taking people around the world in the second half of 19th century, he was still around, his operation was still around, people were still traveling with him through 2 world wars. He survived the Spanish flu and countless little wars here and there. Tourism will come back because it has learned how to metamorph. It has learned how to change its character. It was, in the beginning, it was a luxury that few could afford, to now it's a must-have within reach of almost all people. We'll come back because it changed, it progressed from being an armchair type to the experiential type of tourism. people wanting to learn about foreign cultures while they're enjoying the sun on the beach. Try ethnic cuisines while attending a corporate event in a country, or simply enjoying their favorite activity in different location in the world. The only difference between us and Thomas Cook, period, is that, as you have mentioned, this pandemic has impacted the entire world, has impacted both destination and origin countries. It has laid waste, literally laid waste to commercial aviation, cruise liners, and international travel as a whole. And these, we know, are a backbone of this industry. We seem to, well, let's go back again a couple of years in history and look at the time when we were hit with the SARS pandemic. Certainly, if I remember correctly, there were more victims of that pandemic than what we had so far with Corona. I might be wrong, but has the world this time around overreacted and forced itself into an economic bind that will take us a long time to untangle? I don't know. But it is an accepted fact that the revival of global tourism is going to be slow, very slow. And the end result will be quite different from the world we traveled through prior to the COVID-19, as you just mentioned, Mawar. Other than abiding by strict health regulations at every step of the way, travelers are going to wonder if their favorite airline, hotel, auberge, tour operator, or high street agent will still be around to take care of his needs. Those of us to survive, those of us who will still be around, and I hope all of us will have to re-engineer ourselves, come up with new tour products that address the new demand patterns that are bound to emerge, and probably cater to niche markets during the post-corona period. We've been hammered by Google and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Spotify and all the other platforms, as well as our own governments, that we should interact via the screen of our tablets and smartphones. While this is true, and I guess this is something we had to go through to be able to minimize the number of victims of this pandemic, I firmly believe man's evolution into a social animal will prevail. And we are going to be helped by the gift of amnesia that the Almighty Creator has hardwired in us. If we're patient, if we plan carefully, we will see tourists coming across all our borders. That, as I said earlier, the return to normalcy is going to be slow and gradual. It will take, and we have examples that I mentioned now, it will take 2 or more countries who have managed to hold the progress of the virus and are in remission to open up to each other and facilitate travel between them, while maintaining, of course, the necessary health and safety precautions. An example is the Australia-New Zealand bubble, and what is now being worked on between Cyprus and Greece, and I think with Israel. These bubbles could gradually expand as more countries join, as more countries are qualified to join. That's what I have for you, Marwan.
Sorry?
I'm done. I think I don't have any more to add to your question. You want me to handle the second question?
I want your input on the local scene. Yes, sir.
Why didn't you ask somebody else that question?
No, you.
Listen, we all agree that the government has done an outstanding job of protecting the lives of Jordanians and those people who reside in Jordan. There seems to be, however, a large number of us who believe the support of the government to business in general is disappointing. Since we were hit by this pandemic, all announcements made by various government officials agree that travel and tourism is among the economic activities that have suffered the most. But these announcements stop there. They stop short. They don't go beyond that. While the industry in Jordan and globally has been constantly warning that the recovery of this industry will take a long time. Despite that, the government support that was rolled out in Jordan was covered all of 2 months, April and May. and nothing beyond that. The government's declared aim is to stop the surge of unemployment, and I can understand that and I respect that. But it has left the private sector to shoulder the bulk of the load. Even the measures that were announced by the Ministry of Labor and Social Security Department at the beginning of the crisis were gradually watered down by imposing certain conditions, or I would even say obstacles. While trying to save jobs, the government had not done much to save the employers, the private sector establishments that actually provide these jobs. The government should ask itself what happens when these establishments run out of cash to pay salaries and wages. The industry in Jordan is very keen on keeping its workforce intact. In the past, we've been through several crises, and as a result of that, we suffered from losing expert and experienced staff to other markets or even other activities and other professions. And this had impacted the level of service that was being provided to visitors. We don't want to see that problem again in Jordan. So we want to keep our staff, we want to keep our workforce, but we face a challenge. The loan program, take an example, the loan program that was started by the central bank to help small and medium-sized businesses. That again was a disappointment. The hurdles that are being placed by the commercial banks have made it very difficult for many companies that applied to get a loan. For a tourist company, take this as an example, for a tourist company to take on a loan with a 6 months grace period and repayment over 18 months, while not being sure when the company will have enough surplus revenue to repay the loan, is financial suicide. How can I gamble the future of my company in 2 years if I don't know I'm going to have enough money to repay that loan? And what happens then? What I think the government should do is to start looking at each subsector in this industry separately. We have different needs, we have different wants, we have different problems. The government needs to identify each particular needs of each sector and tailor solutions or remedies to seriously improve the chance of that subsector surviving for the next, I don't know, a year and a half, that are going to be very, very lean months. While the major issue across the board is providing enough funds for that, there are other measures that governments can take that are tailored to individual areas of activity. I also firmly believe that now is the time to draft a new tourism law and all the bylaws that govern the various travel and tourism professions and organizations such as the JTB. Because the ones we're living with now are not going to see us through once we emerge from under this dark cloud. The industry has to emerge stronger than before because the market is going to be different and we need to be able to survive under different conditions. We need to learn how to survive under different conditions. It's also the high time, and I emphasize high time, that the government commits to strengthening the public-private partnerships. A partnership among equals in all sense of the word, without which no tourism industry will survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Munir. And it's really very sad what I'm hearing. This thing should not be overlooked. That's all I can say now. Your Excellency, Mr. Savas, and you are going to tell us, if you don't mind, what measures did your government to support the tourism sector in these difficult times? And what will be your approach to, under these circumstances, to attract tourists once again to Cyprus, and which markets you will be focusing on? And the third thing is something I read about the other day, is that starting early July, you are going to have what you call a Corona corridor between Greece, Cyprus, and Israel. How do you think this is work, and what precautions are you taking? It's all yours, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Khoury. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Well, first of all, I'd like to say a very big thank you for this invitation. It's a massive honor for me to be amongst you. And I just want to say that I have been to your country 3 times since I got this position. That's how we met with my dear friend Adele. I think you have a beautiful country, fantastic people, incredible food. And I think Jordan is one of the gems of our region. I am going to make a reference to this point later on, but we absolutely need to find more ways to collaborate. I say that with a bit of sadness. Later on, I will tell you why, not yet. Okay. I would also like to, even though probably most of you cannot see him on screen, the president of the Association of Cyprus Travel Agents is also amongst the guests, Mr. Vasilis Stamataris. And I insisted that he be invited because, first of all, I have an unbelievable relationship with Vasilis. We have both been in the industry for many, many years. He's one of my closest colleagues and the closest associates of the ministry. And it's the best example of the public sector and the private sector working together, because I am in the public sector, he's private, but we work closely together. And I feel that there is a lot of value to be gained by both associations of travel agents working closer together. And I would like this day to be hopefully the beginning of that. I think we have a lot to gain.
Hopefully.
Now, when all of this started, first of all, let me say that Cyprus was one of the strictest countries in the EU. We closed our borders very, very quickly. People were going crazy. I was getting calls from the Brits, the Germans, the Russians. What are you doing? Are you crazy? Why are you so strict? You're going to ruin us and all of this. And then people started realizing, you know, they are right. And the fact that we were strict means that now we are able to ease the lockdowns and be, like Jordan, one of the countries in the region that is going to be open for business in a few weeks. We hope to open 1st July. Okay, the airport will open a few weeks earlier, but hopefully the destination will be open 1st of July. And this date has been in my mind from the very, very beginning. I always said that 1st July is the target. So this is crucial because it points to the next thing I want to mention. Keeping this date in mind, it meant that as a country, we had to find ways to support businesses and employees from March, April, May, and June, 4 months. Yeah. From the beginning, we said, we need to do everything we can to support businesses and employees for 4 months, hoping that things are going to be fine and we will start having some revenue again in July. So in terms of businesses, our first intention was to help the liquidity of these businesses. We gave loan deferrals so that businesses were able to repay their loans later on after many months. We gave permission to banks to issue low interest working capital loans for liquidity, for cash flow, basically, immediate cash flow to pay maybe some suppliers or some of their expenses. And something else that we are doing right now, the law hasn't passed yet, but I think we will pass it soon, is a voucher guarantee scheme, whereby hotels, travel agents are able to provide vouchers redeemable within 18 months to customers and tour operators abroad. And this is very important because, okay, we have, I don't know, almost 100 million euros in the destination as prepayments. We have to make sure that this money stays there and is not taken back either by customers or by tour operators, because if that money gets out of the system, a lot of companies are going to get bankrupt. If these companies get bankrupt, obviously a lot of jobs will be lost. So at the end of the day, by having this voucher law guaranteed by the government, we help businesses stay liquid, and we make sure that tour operators keep an interest in our country. Basically, we are saying to them, look, keep your money here. We owe you services. Push them back towards the end of the year or maybe even 2021. So in terms of business liquidity, this is what we have done. It doesn't mean that tourism businesses are not asking for more. So His Excellency earlier, he said that businesses are asking for more. Yes, our businesses are asking for more as well, like VAT reductions, etc. But you know, every country is doing what it can financially. Now, on the what I mean by that is that, okay, we want to help more, but it's not possible to go any further when it comes to direct support. Now we need to go to the other side and bring in business. That's how we can really help. Now for the staff, for the employees, we have issued a furlough scheme which covers 90% for 90% of the staff. It covers 60% of their salary paid by the government. And this is useful both for employees and for businesses, because the businesses, they don't have to pay any salary for these 4 months. On the other hand, the government has guaranteed 60% of the salary to these employees. The only exception is 10% of the staff, which we felt that businesses still need to employ anyway to do maintenance, office work, accounting, etc. So this has been our focus in terms of helping the industry. And yeah, now we are also in the process of implementing an extraordinary sales and marketing strategy. We asked as a ministry for some additional money to support airlines, to support tour operators, to do festivals towards the end of the season in order to bring in more traffic and develop the product. Obviously promotion, videos, a new logo of the country. So we have had additional support in terms of marketing funds. Actually, we are one of the ministries that has managed to avoid budget cuts.
Yeah.
Not only have they not cut our budget, they have supported it by an additional 20%. So obviously I had to fight a lot for this, but we achieved it. I'm quite happy. You asked, your second question is the markets. What can we do immediately to rejuvenate as much as possible this summer season? Unfortunately for us, our two biggest markets, Russia and the UK, they are out of the game until maybe August. Yeah. So we will be forced to speed up our national tourism strategy, which was announced in January. And within it, it says that we need to focus on alternative markets. There's two types of markets. The first market is, you know, great customers like the Germans, the Austrians, the Nordics, the French, the Dutch people, people who travel year round, they have a higher spending, and they are also, they also like special interest holidays. So we are going to be focusing a lot on tour operators from these countries, maintaining air connectivity with these countries. And we have a unique opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to show these customers that Cyprus is a safe destination, is a hygienic destination, and capable of handling crises and taking care of its people and travelers. I say that it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because, first of all, these countries have never been looking at Cyprus before. Now they are looking at Cyprus as an option to travel. So it's our opportunity to show them what we are doing. The second reason why it's a great opportunity and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity is that many other destinations are going to be closed or they will open later than Cyprus. So people are now looking at the destinations who are going to be open and they are focusing on what they are going to be doing. The third reason is that, as His Excellency said before, people have a short memory. in 18 months from now, maybe they will not care so much anymore about health, safety, hygiene, etc. Yeah, they will care, but a bit less. Now it's number one on everybody's radar. So it's an opportunity to show these things to them. And this is the first part of our new targeted approach. The second is the regional traffic. You spoke about Israel, you spoke about Greece. Yes, why are we looking into that? Because they are close, not because we like them more than Jordan. I will come to Jordan in a little bit. They are close, there is connectivity. And I think this year, people are gonna feel more comfortable to travel shorter trips. Yeah. We need to take advantage of that. Personally, I want to take advantage of the possibilities and opportunities presented by the Jordan market as well. Yeah. And it's a market that I believe, Cyprus is a market that Jordan should also be targeting. And I spoke with a bit of sadness before, because last year when I came 3 times, I did not come on holiday. I came specifically to start creating an exchange of traffic between both countries. And there was initial enthusiasm. Adele was with the tourism board at the time. It didn't pick up. Now is an opportunity to pick that up, to exchange traffic and travelers. You can benefit from us, we can benefit from you. And above all, looking forward, the interesting project of joint packages between the 2 countries, it needs to come to fruition at some point. We are very keen on that still. And that's a type of package that is going to be likable by customers in the future. Maybe people will travel less because they are afraid of getting out of their country so much. If they travel less, it means that they will travel longer. It means that they will want to visit maybe more than 1 country. So my closing comment, I hope that today is the beginning of starting this project for good.
Yes, thank you, sir, for your input today, and especially for the support you're giving to the private sector and the immediate adjustment of your. It's very important, I believe. Can I ask you one question?
Yes.
Can we borrow you for a short time here?
Yeah, of course. You mean there to work?
As a minister.
You know, I have only 2 years left here. Sure, why not?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our third speaker is Mr. Adel Amin, who will be talking about domestic tourism as an option. If this thing remains as is or it is prolonged, how can we look at domestic tourism? And what are the precautions if we are doing something like that? Because travel will be closer to home initially, I believe, at the beginning. And the second thing that I want you to talk about, Adel, what markets should Jordan consider in the immediate and the near future? And please, of market intelligence at this stage, please. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Marwan.
Yes.
Everybody hears me properly? Hello?
Yeah. Yes, okay, I hear you.
Great. Thank you very much, Marwan. And it's a pleasure to be among you today, among this distinguished panelists and guests. I wish to first, just before jumping into your questions, to thank JSTA for their kind invitation. In addition to acknowledging a couple of people who are important, dear to me as well, who are among the audience, Mr. Shannon Stowell, the president of the Adventure Travel Trade Association. Thank you very much, sir. It's 7 o'clock your time in the morning. You've done it and being with us today. I thank His Excellency, the former Minister of Tourism in Lebanon. I thank as well Lauke, our colleague from CBI, among other important people around us. Returning to your question, Marwan, I do believe that domestic tourism is quite important at this period of time, yet it will never ever take over the international business, as we all know. Yet it is the only business available today. So the opportunity is there when we start to analyze the figures and the numbers of outbound travel per destination. If we take, for instance, Jordan as an example, number of Jordanians traveling to Turkey, for instance, in 2004 and 2019 were more than 400,000 travelers, which is a big number.
Yeah.
A significant number, something similar, went to Egypt. So between these two countries, we're talking about approximately 1 million. 100,000 plus went to Dubai. Around 20,000 went to Cyprus, if I'm not mistaken, Your Excellency. So if there is a potential, this you have to add on top the honeymooners, for instance, the business travelers, mainly those going to China, to Thailand, and all of the other Asian countries. So the question is, beside wanting to travel and beside wanting to enjoy their time, why are those people traveling specifically in big numbers to those destinations? These are questions we have to address ourselves when we look at the domestic tourism. At the same time, do we have such a product? The answer is sort of, yes. But what about the prices? Are they quite affordable? Do we match the prices of Egypt and Turkey, for instance? The answer is not really. We Jordanians, we always complained about Jordan being high in prices and expensive when we compare it to other nearby destinations. And there is a fact we have to admit, that this pandemic had and will still have a huge economical impact on people, where they might reconsider their priorities. So tourism might not be among their priorities on top of their list. Yet at the same time, still there will be people who want to travel, whether abroad or within the destination. But in order to do so, the governments, I believe, some governments stepped in to subsidize the prices of suppliers to make it more affordable, so that the people can enjoy their vacations or their summer holidays or whatever, by reallocating certain amounts of money and to support and to subsidize. But there is something very important here. This should not be on behalf of promoting your destination worldwide. And this is going to be soon. On the contrary, you have to increase your budget, because I believe that as we speak now, certain countries, as His Excellency Savas mentioned, as His Excellency Munir mentioned, there are countries opening up today. For instance, just a couple of days ago, 7 prime ministers, with all due respect to positions, we're talking about prime ministers of 7 countries. They were talking about the importance of returning tourism through the corridor which you've referred to, Marwan. So this is extremely important, that we keep and we even increase the amounts of budgets allocated for promoting your destination to the world very soon. At the same time, the operational costs of suppliers is quite high, especially hotels. So in order to make a balance between the needs of the people and the needs of the suppliers, so that both parties are happy, a win-win situation, so that we can make this domestic tourism really work, I think that the government should look into reducing taxes and looking into the prices of the heat, light, and power to make it more affordable for the locals to move around. If we look at, for instance, how would the domestic tourism look like? I think it will be on smaller numbers for sure. FITs, families, close friends who really feel that they are more secure and safe when traveling to each other. And I think they tend to prefer to go into some rural areas, some open spaces rather than crowded places, as we all know. Physical distancing is quite important. I don't like the naming of social distancing. We are all social close to each other, but physical distancing is definitely something that we will continue to observe to a certain period of time. Honeymooners as well is an important target audience that we have to look into. Tour operators have to be a little bit as well creative in their wrapping up certain package for the locals. It's not a picnic type of trip as it used to be a couple of years ago through a national program. It's not about having people on a bus, taking them, visiting a site, having lunch and bringing them back. I mean, what would the service provider really benefit from, like hotels, like tour guides? So it has to be a full package, quite creative in presenting it to the market. Questions that should be addressed: would they really prefer to stay in big hotels or small hotels, or Airbnb? There's a question mark about Airbnb. What about the meal served? Buffets? I don't think that buffets are convenient anymore. So there's lots of things that we have to look into. What kind of safety measures are offered within the accommodation facilities, within the transportation facilities? This is something that suppliers, even the tour operators, have to um, present and show to the locals in order to gain this feeling of safety and trust, so that they can go ahead and request the services for local tourism. Marketing for sure will be online. I think social media is king these days. So this is how I see and I perceive that the domestic tourism will be. Yes, it is important, but again, it will not overtake international tourism for sure. You want me to jump into the second question, Marwan?
The other thing you did not mention,
Yeah.
what markets should be
Yes.
immediately and short term, if
Yes.
it's different than what we have?
I believe that I wanted to split the answers into two sections. The first was the domestic and how domestic is looked at. As for
Yes.
international tourism, I do believe that after the domestic tourism, I think we at the same time have to be looking into the regional tourism, regional markets as well. One of the experts I heard the other day said that science is dictating politics these days. It is true, but I would like to add on top of that is that decision makers are reshaping our day-to-day life at the moment, the life of people and the life of travel. So the challenges we face, whether it's regional or even international, is what are those markets, the feeder markets as we name them? What policies are they doing? What policies are they taking? When will they open up? When will their airports open? Where would they allow their travelers to travel to? What about our own policies? When are we going to open up? Whether it's Jordan, whether it's Cyprus, whether it's any destination here I'm referring to. Will there be any rapid COVID-19 tests at the borders and the airports in order to make sure that people are not really infected? Are there going to be any documentations being asked ahead of time, whether when you apply to a visa or upon arrival, that proves that you are COVID-19 free? Will travelers, and this is quite important, will travelers be quarantined after traveling or returning? I mean, if I will be traveling to Cyprus and then I will be stuck there 14 days, or coming back to Jordan and I have to be stuck another 14 days, this is a hassle. I don't think that people will be excited about this. Another question, which airlines will be flying to us? Now, airlines are looking into profitability. They're looking about how can they cash in money at least to sustain themselves. What will happen with low-cost carriers and charters? And most importantly, and I think His Excellency Savas touched the point here, which is which tour operators will keep on featuring us? Are we on top of their minds? Because tour operators abroad are having the same or similar or maybe even bigger problems that we are facing today. They would like to sustain their businesses as well. So they will be looking at destinations which are really ready to receive their clients. And if we are not visible to those people, then we are out of the game. So the big question is, who is really following up on all of these questions and taking actions? At the same time, the good thing about it is that people will keep on traveling. When we talk about destinations, I think that tourism boards in general have to be showing what their destinations are doing. I've been seeing a lot of videos on the net surfing about how beautiful the destination is, showing the main sites, etc. That's fine, that's beautiful. But very few are showing the measures that has been taken by those destinations to make it safe again to enjoy and travel and to build up the confidence in the tour operators and the consumers at the same time. I think that this is extremely important. Doing awareness is nice, but you have to highlight what you are doing to make it more safer for me to come and to enjoy your destination. So I always say that communicating the right message at the right time to the right people is needed and essential in order to help them as well spread the word with you. Today, our main objective has to be, and it had to be, I mean, worked on not yesterday, the day before maybe, is to maintain our proper connections with our markets. I know for a fact that our Jordanian tour operators have been working on this since day one. But I think that others should be working in the same line as well. As mentioned, I'm not calling here to sell the destination. A little bit of awareness does not harm, but again, highlight what you're doing, build up the confidence. Concerning target markets, Marwan, I took a lot of time. Just I wanted to a little bit, I mean, draw the picture how it's going. Concerning the target markets, I believe that yes, when it comes to Jordan, the regional markets are extremely important. It has always been. The GCC has always been extremely important to Jordan, especially Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, with long stays, good spenders. Qatar quite recently, in addition to the UAE and other nearby European countries, such as Cyprus, Greece, etc. Saudis, for instance, they can come by car, so it's quite easily. The same thing applies to our Palestinian brothers next door. The recovery, as His Excellency Mr. Munir said, it will take time, definitely. The type of travelers, again, will be FITs. VFR will be on the rise for sure. Luxury travel will be on the rise as well. Airlines are important. Although they will find challenges, they will be most probably flying 50% of their capacities, which again will be reflected on the prices. The quick turnaround, for instance, which low-cost carriers used to do, I don't think that it will apply anymore, because you really need to do some more deep cleaning between flights, and this will affect the rotations of the flights as well. And to finish up, the type of traveler will change as well, Marwan. For instance, here in Jordan, we have a good portion of elderly people traveling. Maybe they will be a little bit concerned about their health for this coming period of time. While, for instance, Cyprus, since Cyprus are with us here, they have more youngsters who like to come on beach holidays, more adventurous and more active. They would like to travel even with such cases, but their problem is quite different, because they are coming through charters and low-cost carriers, which again is mass tourism, and I don't think that this will happen in the short to medium term. So all of us, we have to look into the new markets, new category of clients, and I hope that things will get better. Yes, it will not remain forever, but we always have to have more than one scenario, more than one plan, so that the what if factor happens, then we are ready at least to reply and to act accordingly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adel. Very important topics you have raised, and I think they should be looked at. Our next speaker is Mr. Clive Bishop. Throughout your vast experience, international experience. We would like to hear from you. How will the future of travel look like? And tools should be used if different from what we are using now? And in general, what are tourism boards doing at the moment? And if not, they are not doing what they should do, what should they do? Thank you. It's your
Thank you very much.
platform.
And I can actually see that there's some very learned people from tourism that are participating here. I'd also like to thank Adel for doing 3/4 of my presentation, but you know, as colleagues, we do tend to share experiences there. But yeah, let me sort of deal with those sort of questions and give you some perspective. I've been dealing with development programs on behalf of donor agencies like the CBI, the Netherlands, Swiss Contact from Switzerland, GIZ, and lots of others, as well as some private sector direct programs that we've been running. And that's over the last 12 years. And so I want to try and give you a neutral perspective on what I've been working with now since early February. COVID-19 started making a big impression on the tourism business out in Southeast Asia. And that's when I started working with, okay, what is going to happen? What do the private sector need to do? And it has been predominantly the private sector that I have been working with. And that's then replicated as it's gone through to the other markets. In fact, I was out in Jordan in February with a colleague I see who's online, where even those conversations when we were talking about the package travel regulations and GDPR and things like that, people were still asking, what do you think's going to happen? So I want to try and give you a slightly different perspective about what can be done or what the situation is. And I'll try and reference that so you've got some idea. Let's deal with, okay, what is going to happen? Okay, well, my own experience of owning my own businesses in tourism, I've been through what I call lots of events, whether it's terrorism, whether it's been economic, whether it's been health issues. So I've sort of got a little bit resilient and dealing with things where I've had to make a 180-degree turn on my own business overnight. And this is the sort of thing that we talk about, is the fact that, you know, I muted to a few people in Jordan, right, you're going to have to start looking at domestic tourism. I know this has already been mentioned, but the instant response was, we don't do that. Well, the reality is you will have to do it. And it's about finding the market that you can find there. It's about finding the you know, what sort of things people do, affinity groups or people that like doing certain things. It's about the negotiation with your suppliers, having a minimum 3-part components in your packages. And then it's about the packaging. But let's not, you know, we won't worry too much, but you have to find a market. Let's face it, your international market is gone, all right? It may be gone for some time. Some of that's to do with the end-to-end health concerns, which could be not to do with Jordan, but are people worried about traveling to Heathrow Airport in London, going through Heathrow, okay? Then they're flying to Jordan and then everything else. There's going to be some of those concerns. It's already been mentioned about the fact that, are there going to be any quarantine processes? At the moment, I was due to go to Spain. If I did fly there, because my low-cost carrier says I can, I'd end up going to 2 weeks quarantine. And then when I get back, another 2 weeks here. So 1 week equals 5. So, you know, what else is there going to be happening? So domestic tourism is definitely something that most countries around the world are having to look at in some shape or form. It is not going to replace your international, but it's got to be something that you develop between now, last week, last month, that can sustain some degree of growth. There is also the regional market that definitely needs to be opened up, because as a sequence of events, it will be domestic, then regional. Why regional? because it's easier to get to, and also there's a far greater trust with neighboring countries than there are with far-flung countries. And there's also then, let's get on to the airlines, okay? I had earlier today a conversation with the CEO of an airline who was in an IATA meeting yesterday, and he reconfirmed what I'd heard before, in that obviously for affecting charter flights and low cost, the mass market is gone, okay? It is going to be gone, they reckon, until about 2023. But that is assuming that the mass market will come back, and I'd like to come on to something else on that later. So with airlines, they've talked about, do we leave the middle seat out? Now, I don't know what Royal Jordanian is going to do. I don't know what British Airways is going to do. Virgin is making speculation about flying back to Israel soon. When soon is, I haven't seen so far. But even talking to someone like the CEO of Kenya Airways today, they said that they will be starting operations in June, starting with domestic, then gradually working regional, and then working international. If they leave, like the WHO may discuss with IATA, about leaving the central seat empty in some attempt at, let's say, health matters, that will put between 50 and 100% on the price of the ticket. All right. Once we start compounding all those things, you can see now where countries around the world are saying, actually, we want to develop, we will go back to existing markets, but at the same time, we have to develop the domestic to keep things going. We have to develop the regional markets, which may be different per thing, per country. What are the regulations? What are the restrictions? But then internationally, people are already looking at, if we have a mass market, the learned gentleman from Cyprus said their two biggest markets are the UK and Russia. But they're diversifying, and that's what every country is looking at. It's diversifying the number of countries they do, but also within that, the sectors of people. What sort of people do they want to come? After COVID, there's also the big one. It's like that. It's not a return of COVID, although that could be possible in maybe 2 or 3 issues, but it's the economic issue. Can they afford? Now, there may be people that will be looking at high-class hotels, but if I can reference, for example, in Africa, where they're getting advanced bookings for 2021, so these are people that have cancelled and rebooking, there's a couple of significant things that are actually happening in some countries there. Number one, people are speculating the fact that their complete program, their complete package will be more expensive. And they're actually now downgrading from 5-star down to 4-star. So there's a bit of play now as the market adjusts itself. Okay. There's also the family market. It would appear that there's a growing trend for the family markets. 3 companies that I know of, they were originally had a booking for this year for 2 people, husband and wife. They've changed, they've cancelled, or whatever way you want to put it, and they've rebooked for next year. But all of a sudden, they're taking their 3 children, which they never did before. Now, that could be a situation where being locked up with your families starts to bond people more. I've spent the longest time at home over the last couple of months than I have done in quite a few years. And I've suddenly found that my children are not just, ATM dealers that always want cash. They actually do exist. So, but people are bonding together more. So you've got a few things going on there. So coming back to the question, you know, where is it going? What is it doing? The reality is there's a lot of ideas out there. Some of it is to do with obviously digital. Some of it is to do with product. Some of it is directed where people we think this is going to happen because they want it. That's their business. So I'm a little bit, I balance in the middle. And the future for next year and the year after will be a slow to medium growth in the tourism markets, especially on long haul. It's going to depend on what flights are operating. Are the low cost carriers going to be operating? And it's going to mean major changes to everything that tour operators and even hotels do there in Jordan. Okay. Someone has globally, well, not someone, we know what it is, has actually pressed the reset button. And effectively, in many ways, all your companies have suddenly become what some people call a startup. You've got to rethink what you do. You've got to rethink how you do things and when you do things. And part of that is going back to, do you have a marketing plan? Do you have a business plan? How many staff do you need? What investment will you need in technology? Okay. Because technology is going to play an important role. It already does, but it's going to increase it. The reason being is that you've all been there, ladies and gentlemen, in lockdown. And certainly within major markets in Europe, talking to my Dutch, German, and Swedish colleagues, as well as other colleagues here in the UK, people are actually searching more, okay? YouTube in Europe, I can't say globally or in the MENA region, but certainly in Europe, in the last 2 weeks, YouTube has seen an increase of roughly 25% in people searching on YouTube for inspirational things, okay? They're looking at destinations. They're looking for ideas. What can they do there? Now that came from Google, the head of Google Africa, as of just now, literally about 2 hours ago, because he was talking about where does tourism go as far as the future, okay? People are searching, so any company out there, and I know it's been touched on about the tourism boards doing similar things, it's about having those aspirational images, those aspirational videos in any sort of format on your website, on your social media, because people are hungry for ideas. I mean, just myself, and I admit I am biased towards Jordan. I also like Cyprus, but I'm, in this case, Jordan's the priority. Myself, I have circulated, or as they shared, or whatever way you want to put it, as far as social media, a lot of videos to do with the destination. And I've had people saying, I would not have thought of going there until I've seen that. We are a traditional fly and flop Cypriot market sort of thing for the UK, but we're willing to look at this because it's so interesting. We would have never looked at it before. So as far as technology, there will be lots of innovation to do with VR, virtual reality tourism, and different things like that, which some people are having success with. But it still comes back to VR is great, but there's nothing like seeing it, smelling it, touching it, eating it in the case of Jordan, the excellent food there, for themselves. So it's important that all of you are putting out the messages there. Now, as far as tourism boards, there are some good ones and there's some not quite so good ones. Everyone's trying to do their bit with the budgets they have. Some outstanding ones for different reasons. Canada has been doing a very, very effective job in promoting themselves. The Faroe Islands with their local guided tours, virtual reality, well, not quite virtual, but through video technology, that has been excited people on social media. Even a simple thing, which I think I sent to one of my friends there, Aruba. They had a 30-minute video available so people could just see around the island. No words, no prices, no come and see us. It was just have a break from COVID and look at our fantastic beaches and our island. Simple, effective, but it attracted people to it. So there's a lot of things that can be done, and Dubai's done things and other people. So, you know, as far as where are you going, it's definitely looking at domestic tourism. What's the segmentation? What sort of people will travel? How will they travel? What is the package? How is it packaged together? There is, as far as regional, like Adele has already said, there is potential growth there. But what are their restrictions? What are their requirements, which may be slightly different? Pricing points or available, how they travel. And then there's the international, which is going to be some time away. Okay, but bookings are happening for next year. I've told you one case of Africa. A couple of the major tour operators, long-haul tour operators in the UK, have already been reporting that they've had bookings for, okay, not Jordan, I'll be perfectly honest with you, but other places that are outside of Europe, for people that are booking for next year. I think there was a reported something like, I'm not sure, something like £12,000 booking for one of the Caribbean islands that was booked for next year. Okay. Now, everyone will assume that's people that are rebooking, but the reality is only about 60% of those booking are people that have cancelled this year and transferring to 2021. So there's different green shoots of development going on, you know, tourism. But you definitely need to look at domestic tourism, as Adele has said, and between him and I, we can come up with a few ideas if anyone wants to talk to us about it. There is also the regional tourism where Turkey, Cyprus, yes, I know you want people to go to you, but they can come to Jordan as well. The Saudis, okay, and other regional nationalities, all right? My own feeling, and I stress I never claim to be a marketing expert or anything else, I've just had to do it for my own businesses or other international ones and various other things that I've done before. Key things for the future. Number one, the families market is going to be a potential one. So if there are going to be more families traveling to Jordan, what else do you have to look at? Yes, the health and hygiene matter, but also, is it a case of more attention needs to be placed to, you know, who are the children? What do they want in the total program, as much as, you know, that will do, just a room. There's a swimming pool at the hotel, that will be fine. One very, very important one, and I see that we have Debbie from Fin Partners online as well. Very interesting on that, so as well as for Lauka at the CBI. There's most definitely going to be probably a faster growing trend towards sustainability and responsible tourism, especially as people are more health conscious and more aware of what's going on. So for Jordan as a destination, you really do need to start looking at more into what can you do to make your programs more sustainable, looking more at community-based tourism. This is not about the mass market, but this is about making people aware of how well you can do things throughout the whole value chain. And also there will be a bigger increase in adventure or experience tourism. This is not the fact that necessarily you're going to get hundreds of thousands of rock climbers coming. You may do, but this is more and more people now are talking about, well, maybe now's the time we've got to go and experience more than just flying out and going to a hotel and seeing the standard sites that they've always been there. So I would encourage definitely every operator that's online to start looking at how can they get more community engagement with their programs, because looking again at what searches have been made and what people I can report back have had inquiries for in Asia and in Africa and also already over in Latin America, is they want to do more than what they would normally plan to do. They want to engage more with people. They want to have that feeling. I'm not saying we're suddenly going to get a mass rush towards homestays or anything like that, because there's going to be the whole health and hygiene matter, but there's definitely a big trend growing, and that has to be catered for. The final thing, before you all shout and say, please be quiet, is that one of the extra categories for you to think about when you are looking at marketing or promoting, or whether you're a tourism board, regional tourism board, hotels, tour operator, we've always had this thing about reviews, okay, whether it's TripAdvisor or FIFA or one of the other operations, okay? But there's also been, what star rating, okay? What does 3-star mean? What does 4-star? What does 5-star? You can see straight away that there's going to be a overarching one that people are going to start judging where they stay and what they do. And that is back to your health and hygiene matter, because people will be more receptive in seeing or wanting to see what you're doing. If you look at the case of Hilton, have already come out with their sort of COVID-19 prevention program. Sorry, I've forgotten what it's called, if anyone from Hilton's on there, where the rooms are sealed. I'm working with a whole group of hotels in Africa where we're already looking at what extra can we do and how do we communicate that to our customers, not as a marketing tool to get more business, but actually just to assure people that they are doing as much as possible to make sure that their place that people have chosen is doing as much as they can to prevent any spread. And they're even changing simple things like the toiletries in the bathroom automatically now will include hand sanitizer, okay? They're carrying on the whole process and plan to for the next year and putting those statements on their website. So part of the future will be about reassurance, okay? So I hope I've answered some of the ones there. As far as private sector innovation, a lot of it is going to be down to innovating your packages. And I'll leave some open questions because there's about 80 of you online. Whatever you develop in tourism, take this opportunity, okay? And I've done this myself, I've had to in my past. Something's happened, the world's come to the stop, all right? What can you do now? What things can you do in domestic tourism? What new ideas can you then use that in the future to add value to the international tourists? Okay, it will start to flow together eventually. Anyway, sorry if I've gone about it a different way, but I thought I would give you more of an international sort of story rather than going a point-to-point type of thing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your input. Very useful information we have heard today, and hope it will be put into use some in the future, soon the day in the future, hopefully.
Okay.
I've had a call that somebody wants to say a few words from outside. Adil Amin, do you know who?
I don't know if Mr. Shannon of ATTA, the CEO, he is available or not. He just wanted to jump in with just
because I don't have the control panels here, so it has to be done.
I know. It's just but anyway, if he's not in, maybe we can check with him later on. I'm not sure.
I just sent to him, but it seems he's not.
It seems, yeah, he has another.
He's not available now. Okay. Yes.
Fine. Then time today, but I think it was useful, and I hope we'll do that again in better times. I repeat, in better times. I hope so. And thank you very much for your input, and hopefully things will be better. Thank you very much.
One last thing, please, Marwan.
Yes.
If there is any questions from any attendees, I think Muhammad of JSTA should have mentioned that they can send it by email to Muhammad Abu Sbeh email, and then he can forward it to
Yes,
concerned
yes, yes.
people.
I will send you my email. Yes. Okay.
Sure. And let me say that on behalf, I want to thank you on behalf of the chief of the Jordan Society of Travel Agents, Mr. Muhammad Samih, and the Jordan Society for being with us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.